What's going on, everyone? Gerardo, welcome back, or if this is your first time here, welcome in. We're going to be talking about PulseChain in this video, and the fact that by the time you're watching this video, there's probably less than an hour left until you can go into PulseChain.com and hit this button right here, Open dApp, which takes you to pulse.info. Now, you can sacrifice directly from your MetaMask if you just copy and paste this address down here. You can just scroll down on PulseChain.com. However, if you're using a non-EVM based chain, if you're using something like Bitcoin or ADA or whatever you're sacrificing, if it's anything other than Ethereum or an EVM based chain, right, a coin on there, then just again hit this button over here, top right corner. It says Open dApp. It takes you to pulse.info, where you can connect, whether it be your MetaMask or whatever wallet you're using. Select your network, whether it be Ethereum, BSC, again Bitcoin, whatever. It'll generate an address for you for your specific case, whether that be a unique address, whether that be a public address, or whether that be, I'm not sure how the memo-based system work, but that's the other option, right? And then once you follow those steps, you are submitted into the sacrifice set to be eligible for points. And what do those points mean? Well, those points will likely be redeemable one-for-one for PLS. And PLS is the native token of PulseChain. PulseChain is the hard fork of Ethereum, which comes with a superior feature set as well as beating them to market. So with all of that said and done, if you go to LookIntoHex.com/sacrifice, then all of these charts have been completed. We are at the point in time where the bonding curve is on its last day, right? Last hour left. So $1.98 per 10,000 points. However, you get a 1.75x volume bonus, meaning your cost basis is actually only $1.13 for every 10,000 points. And if you scroll down here for the people that were sacrificing HEX during this time, well, the results are in. You were best off by sacrificing day 2. And you were worst off by sacrificing pretty much today, right? It more or less, we've had a downtrend on the HEX price, specifically during the course of the sacrifice phase, which is interesting. And I'll point out what's happening here maybe later in a different video or at the end of this video as a little bonus for you HEX enthusiasts, right? So if we look at the PLS, right, LookIntoHex.com/PLS tab, then same thing, right? These charts have more or less completed. The results are in. It looks like Pulse overperformed, obviously with the bonding curve, right? Driving it up. That rate overperformed in terms of Ether, in terms of Bitcoin, in terms of US dollar, and in terms of HEX. So, getting into Pulse early was your best bet using all of these coins, right? Again, like your best bet with HEX. This is just a different way of seeing it. It's inverted. And it shows you that your best bet was getting in over here where it was the least amount of hearts per pulse, right? And so the results are in. Earlier the better. I mean, we were told this, so it's no big surprise, right? We were more or less told that the design of PulseChain is to reward the early investors, unlike something like HEX, which actually dumped on the early guys for a little bit and then continued on. So the calculations were well designed, in my opinion, and this is what's happening. Now, the obvious pink elephant in the room is this. Let me zoom in for you so you know what I'm talking about. And let me actually reload this. Yeah, it keeps on going up, baby. So, I mean, what's there to say? Last we checked this, there was like $700 million total that had sacrificed when calculated by time of sacrifice. About $700 million. And look at it now. Sitting at $13.7 billion. Nonchalantly, the sacrifice address has gained an extra $13 billion today. So what does this mean? Well, we can get into it now. There are claims, right, that this is the HEX origin address, which held a ton of coins, because these $13 billion came in the form of 110 billion HEX units. 110 billion HEX units. And yeah, the OA is rumored to have billions and billions of coins. Not even rumored. In the code, it specifically shows the bonuses it received, the inflation it received at the beginning, the penalties, or half of penalties it receives from now on. But yeah, we've known this, right? We've known that the OA is a controlling entity of a large percentage of the ownership of HEX itself, and we've reasoned why that's generally a good thing, right? You see that most of the successful human ventures in terms of financial gain for early investors were the ones that were highly centralized in their ownership at first, right? That's not talking about network centralization. Obviously, network decentralization is the crux of crypto. I'm talking about ownership decentralization. And so we already knew that the OA held a ton of HEX, ton of coins. And it's flexing today by sacrificing 110 billion of those coins. Now, let's get into a little bit of more advanced, kind of complicated, not complicated or advanced, just the fun stuff, right? Some nuances. Let's say, just for argument's sake, that the OA, or the entity that controls the OA, also controls the sacrifice address. Let's just, for sake of fun here, in that case, then you have something that potentially the OA just gives money to itself, and yet by not incurring a net gain or loss, because it just moved money to itself, it did undergo a benefit by it now has a shit ton of points. And what are those points? Well, they're to be redeemable for Pulse in the future. And so the OA, being a large controlling entity in terms of the ownership of HEX, the number of units out there circulating, then assuming the OA and the sacrifice address are controlled by the same entity, then the sacrifice address will be, or excuse me, the OA will be a large controlling entity in Pulse as well, right? And everyone's coins are being forked now for literally everyone except one address. Their sacrificed coins aren't being forked because they just don't have them anymore, right? So if you, for example, sacrificed, I don't know, let's say like some person sacrificed 10,000 HEX, then they're getting points for PLS, but if let's say that's all they had liquid, then they won't have any liquid PHEX at the time of the fork, right? Because they sacrificed it, it's no longer theirs, so how are you going to get a copy of what's not yours? Now, this applies to literally every single sacrificer, except for the sacrifice address itself. So whoever owns those keys to this right here is actually going to have a lot of PHEX. A lot. So they're going to have a lot of PX, they're going to have a lot of Pulse, and they obviously already have a lot of HEX. Again, assuming these two entities are the same. And from a price performance perspective, in my opinion, not financial advice, just what I see from history, right? What has history shown us? It's that a single controlling entity or centralized ownership tends to be good for price. That's what it seems like to me. Like if you measure this, we've talked about this, about what, 3800x. We all know what the HEX chart has done at this point, so I don't really need to explain much further, but for those of you who are new, this is the HEX chart. If you haven't seen it in its full historical beauty, starting late 2019, finding an absolute global bottom January 5th of 2020, and finding its recent local peak just a little under a month ago, just a few weeks ago, for a grand total of 380,000%. And like, what else is there to say, man? The results are in. Earlier was better, clearly. And as for this address, it's quite thick, right? And again, this is going to be a controlling entity, most likely, for Pulse and PHEX, because it's getting all of these coins forked. So, I mean, that just makes me bullish, generally. And speaking of bullish, look at this chart. You know what I'm about to tweet. Like, if you have been following me on Twitter for a while, that's twitter.com/Gerardog, GERAWRDOG, nightmare to spell, then yeah, you know the thread I'm talking about, where I think I started the thread somewhere back here, when our falling parallel channel broke to the upside, and I tweeted about it, and then we ran up. I think I did a similar thing over here and then ran up, never visited those prices again. I did it, I think, again over here or something, and then boom. And I'm going to do it again because it's just like the thread is getting longer. It's bullish breakout after bullish breakout, just so you guys kind of get an idea of the patterns in HEX recently that have been playing out. Obviously, nothing is predictable. Nothing is deterministic just because it's happened before. Past performance isn't necessarily indicative of future performance, but it can be insightful, to say the least. So I think I'm going to end it there. I'm going to go hop on Richard's live, go watch that, not hop on. And yeah, I'm gonna enjoy the end of sacrifice phase. It ends in about, scroll up here, hour 11 minutes. Usually takes 10, 20, at most 30 minutes to upload a video. So by the time you're watching this, yeah, this is way past an hour, and it's like probably 30, 40 minutes left. And remember that MetaMask transactions can take a few failed attempts before it actually, going through. Good old Ethereum, right? Reason why we're forking it. And if you don't have like your wallet already accessible, and if you need to gain access to that, definitely give yourself some time. I know there are some of you last minute guys who are just like going to do this right now. Don't know why you guys like to procrastinate and do that to yourselves, but yeah, just get it done and, get that headache over with. Well, not a headache, but get the stress off your shoulders, and just now we wait. So appreciate you watching. I'll be covering, again, some more HEX stuff in a future video because this is more directed towards Pulse, and not everyone in Pulse actually likes HEX, believe it or not. Even though there's a large crossover in the communities, there are some new people, so all of you are welcome, right? If you're HEX holder, Hexican, Pulse enthusiast, excited about it, like everyone's welcome, so come through. Just don't shill any altcoins or random coins in the comments. You will most definitely get that sweet ban. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Thanks again for watching. Links to everything down in the description, always, to the LookIntoHex charts, to the Twitter for LookIntoHex. We actually have one. My Twitter, all of that good stuff. Follow, subscribe, thumbs up, share, comment, all that great stuff. Thanks again for watching. Catch you in the next video. Peace.